We have got quite a bit of DC news to talk about today, guys. Welcome back to a brand new DCU News Roundup video. And seriously, we've got some things to talk about with regards to the DCU Titans, and dare I even say it, DCU Deathstroke, and then we're going to get into various other topics. You guys know how it works here. The video is timestamped, so you can skip around on the topics in this video, but I do recommend watching all of it so you stay up to date with all of my takes. Consider subscribing to never miss out on any small or large DC updates, among other topics that we cover here on the channel. And hey, go ahead and like the video. It really does help me out, if and only if you do go on to enjoy it. And hey, give it a dislike if you don't like what I'm doing here. But right away, the DCU Titans, ladies and gentlemen, it's been something that I've been expecting, to be honest, ever since 2022. I'll touch on how and why I thought about that back then in just a little bit, because that comes into play with Deathstroke. But along the course of things, along the course of time, I should say, well, it wasn't so long ago when we got that Hollywood Reporter exclusive article, and I need to remind everyone, and I know I've been over this a couple of times, but they are a major trade, and they put out an exclusive, which is, you know, as I've said before, fairly ballsy to do as a big trade if you absolutely had nothing concrete on that story whatsoever. The headline being Teen Titans live-action movie a go at DC Studios, and Ana Noguera, who penned the script for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, is apparently working on this. Now, this all comes into play with something that came out over the past couple of days, in how, once again, Production List, I believe, productionlist.com, similar to Production Weekly, listed that the Teen Titans movie would be gearing up into production in December of this year. And I was like, okay, but the thing is, my expectations were already set with stuff like this, because if you guys remember a couple of News Roundup videos ago, we covered how Booster Gold had a similar listing on Production List, and it didn't really make sense because, yes, we're getting a Booster Gold show that's been confirmed, even though Gunn here hasn't outright confirmed the Teen Titans movie, which we'll get into in a second as well with, is it true, isn't it true? But the thing about Booster Gold didn't make sense because is it really going to start shooting in the next couple of months, of which Production List was saying it was going to, and we haven't even received the writing team, the main star of the show, even though apparently the main star, Booster Gold, has been cast, but it's being kept very under wraps. And so, of course, when they're listing Titans for production towards the end of this year, I didn't expect it to be true. And lo and behold, we have this user here saying, hey, James Gunn, is it true that the Teen Titans movie will be in production on December 31st, 2024? And Gunn was like, nope. So, surprise, surprise. But, of course, let's unfold this a little bit more, because this links to a few other things, because some people are reading into this being like, well, he didn't say what Titans movie. I never confirmed a Titans movie. What are you on about? He just said, nope. The Titans Project isn't going forward into any kinds of production later this year. Now, I admit, I mean, I do like to get a bit reachy on the channel. This is what a lot of these tidbits in news roundups are about until we get some more tangible news to cover, that you can't really look into that so much as I do like to entertain it. But there is a little bit more than that when it comes to the DCU Titans. And that's when I bring us back to that Hollywood Reporter article. Because, again, I think what I want to say once more, just to really get it into everyone's minds, is that especially when you pair it with the fact that James Gunn didn't address the Hollywood Reporter exclusive article, the big major trade article, claiming exclusive to them that we are getting a Teen Titans movie written by the writer of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, when, you know, that's something he would kind of normally address. He would normally quote that, wouldn't he? Being like, okay, you know, I love the Hollywood Reporter, like he's done before with Variety, or this said reporter writing the article, but unfortunately, guys, this that isn't based on any reality. It isn't true. He didn't do that. But what he does do, interestingly, when you take all of this into account, is he replies to an Instagram user here about the production list, claiming that Titans would go into production later this year, and he says no. Or he might reply to other stories that we've covered here a billion times before with thread users or Instagram users asking him questions. Why reply to some fans and not a major trade claiming an exclusive project that you have yet to announce, unless, of course, there is actually something in the works with Titans? It's just maybe what is being posted out there Gunn doesn't feel like confirming it right now. An example I guess I want to go into is if you guys cast back your memory to when there was major trade stories with exclusives about how Nicholas Hoult has landed the role of Lex Luthor, or even various other castings from Ma and Pa Kent, with Neva Howe playing Ma Kent and Pruitt Taylor Vince playing Jonathan Kent, and to probably some better examples that I can't even recall right now. But the question is, why didn't he address those at the time? Well, the thing is, they ended up being true. But bottom line, perhaps they weren't ready to be talked about just yet because, of course, it is sensitive stuff. And as James Gunn actually said recently, like you're probably seeing on screen right now, often things like this, when Gunn doesn't address them, they're still in talks and the deal is kind of still in flux with the finer details, so he doesn't want to come out with it there and then because certain things still need to be solidified. But that doesn't mean in the background that perhaps what the Hollywood Reporter got their exclusive story on with Ana Nogueira writing the DCU Teen Titans movie isn't true. It just means that he's not ready to talk about it yet. Now, some of you may remember that he did like a Threads comment addressed to him saying, "Hey, James Gunn, is the Hollywood Reporter story about the Teen Titans movie fake?" And he left a like on it. Now, some people were interpreting that saying, did he accidentally like it? Why wouldn't he actually, again, the bigger question is, why like a post like that? Why not actually quote tweet the article or quote tweet this user saying that and reply, "This story is false. There is no Teen Titans movie project, at least with Ana Nogueira writing it." Why not do that if he replies quite in depth to all of these other things? Well, I still didn't take that as an outright rejection of a DCU Teen Titans project. Well, why? I take that more as Gunn liking that post means that perhaps the Hollywood Reporter story exclusive article about the Teen Titans movie is a go at DC Studios behind the scenes is not maybe entirely accurate. For example, what if Ana Nogueira isn't writing it? Or maybe what if she is, but it's not a Teen Titans movie? Perhaps it's the Titans, the adult Titans, or maybe they've heard that Ana Nogueira is writing a younger Titans-esque project or a movie, but perhaps it's more in the form of Young Justice. That is obviously speculation on my part, but again, when you kind of take all of these puzzle pieces amongst a smoke screen together, I don't think Gunn ever debunked it just through that like to that comment, because if he really wanted to debunk it, he'd be like, "Sorry, the Hollywood Reporter story is false." He just gave a like, so that tells me that the Hollywood Reporter definitely snuffed out some interesting and valid and legitimate and authentic information from a source, but they reported it perhaps not entirely accurately. Long story long here, ladies and gentlemen. Even before any of this anyway, I bet you there will be a DCU Titans project of some kind happening. It's just Gunn doesn't want to officially address it right now. I really wouldn't be surprised if, since they love Ana Nogueira so much for her Supergirl screenplay, that, oh, surprise, surprise, the Hollywood Reporter were correct in how she is writing whatever this Titans project is and whatever it comes to fruition as. Just because the Hollywood Reporter may have got some details right, it could be like a Young Justice project, it could be a Titans project, it might not even be a movie, it could be a series, it might be an animation like Creature Commandos, all of that good stuff. But this ties into my next story, because even though Gunn has denied the latest rumor, he also dropped something else which I have had my eyes glued to with regards to Deathstroke. So we had yesterday a user saying, "James Gunn, please wink." I mean, he straight up gives it to us here. "Please wink if you have plans for Deathstroke. I am waiting for my boy to shine for so long." And Gunn quite simply replies with a wink emoji. And I tweeted out saying, I've always kept my eye on this ever since Gunn gave his first DCU Deathstroke teaser back in December of 2022. And back in December of 2022, before the Gods and Monsters official announcement at the end of January, we were still hearing little teasers. This was around the time of when we were getting Kingdom Come teasers, Lobo teasers, little teasers out there with regards to like Deathstroke here. And he said to this user asking, "Any plans for Deathstroke in the DCU?" And he's like, "Could be, ... So I'm still going to maintain, just like I did back then, in December, I was like, I think we're getting a Titans Project. I think Deathstroke really does make sense to be an antagonist in a classical way to whatever this Titans or Teen Titans Project is going to be in the DCU. I think that would be amazing, at least on the concept level here. I love the idea of that because there's a big, somewhat misconception these days in how, Deathstroke is a Batman villain. Now, I'm not saying that he isn't, just in the same way that I guess Joker, I said this on a live stream last night, you could argue Joker could be a villain to Superman because he's certainly done some things that have pissed off Superman in the past. But is he a Superman rogues gallery villain? No, not really. So Deathstroke can be a villain to Batman, but he is a Teen Titans rogues gallery villain, if you will, first and foremost. So I think Gunn, being a big fan of the comic books here, and definitely, I would say outright confirming that we are getting Deathstroke in the DCU, will probably stick to the faithfulness of the comics and make Deathstroke a villain of whatever this Titans project is that the Hollywood Reporter first got that scoop of. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that Deathstroke won't appear in an earlier project. And people are mentioning how, hey, what if Deathstroke actually appears in a show like Waller first? Because around about this time, James Gunn and Peter Safran, tucked themselves away and were mapping out the full 8 to 10 year plan of both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the DCU. And it kind of makes you think that as he was perhaps developing Waller at the time, what if you have in the Waller series, and we all know Amanda Waller, and we kind of know where things could be going after the end of Peacemaker Season 1, granted that some certain strands of canon could change up as Peacemaker's story transitions into the new continuity of the DCU. But Amanda Waller, somewhat interacting with Deathstroke the Terminator, could be a cool thing to see. So that's one thing I've said for a long time as well. I do half expect certain characters to backdoor pilot in other series. And what I mean by backdoor pilot is kind of introduce them there in the same way as how Maria Gabriela de Vries, the engineer, is in Superman, but lo and behold, we're getting an Authority movie, and she's one of the key members of the Authority. So it could be a cool, somewhat preliminary introduction to ramp up Deathstroke's role as the antagonist in what this Teen Titans project is eventually going to be whenever that officially gets announced. But all in all here, even though I've kind of known about Deathstroke for a while, and I'm sure some of you, even though I think people forgot about that December tease from James Gunn way back in 2022, it's nice to see that he's winking about Deathstroke, and it does make me wonder if we're going to get him in a project actually sooner rather than later. But I'm hoping for kind of the OG Titans here, an OG Deathstroke classical story. Again, Gunn is a really big fan of the old Titans comics there, Marv Wolfman and everything like that. So, and one more thing quickly before I forget is that I've seen some people speculate, since we basically know we're getting Deathstroke in the DCU, granted we still need to see where he's going to land and what projects, could James Gunn bring back Joe Manganiello in the role of Deathstroke? Now, before some of you say no, because of that story where Joe Manganiello talked about how Gunn said that he should just let it go with kind of what they were pursuing, and if you need a refresher on that, there was this interview where Joe Manganiello said, James Gunn is my buddy, and James and I had a conversation about it because Jim Lee over at DC Comics wanted me to create a graphic novel series based on the screenplay that I wrote for the Deathstroke origin film that, when they were dismantling the DCEU, kind of went to the wayside as well. Jim read it and wanted it to be a graphic novel series, but no one could assure me that if it garnered the attention of directors and producers that I couldn't be attached, so I had to let it go. James Gunn was like, just, let it go. But that's the old DCEU plan. That doesn't mean that James Gunn, Joe Manganiello's buddy, wouldn't be interested in bringing him over to the DCU in the new continuity, the new plan of whatever he plans to do, whether that's kind of backdoor pilot Deathstroke in the Waller series to then go on to the DCU Titans project, if you know what I mean. In the exact same way as he's kept David Ayers, Viola Davis, Amanda Waller on in the DCU, the same way as James Gunn has kept on kind of low-key his favorites here with John Cena, Peacemaker and whatnot, and you could argue Joe Manganiello as a Deathstroke casting could be something, as one of his favorites that he might cherry pick to bring over. So I think the whole let it go comment that people are reading into when I see people talking about this saying, oh no, he's not going to bring him over to the DCU, we already told him to let it go. That's the old plans. It doesn't mean that, hey, if Deathstroke is going to be in the DCU, which I think, again, is kind of obvious, maybe he would want to bring along a casting that everyone already loves. And I've seen some people say, nah, I still don't think he would do that because he's too connected to the Snyderverse. Is he? How? We barely saw Deathstroke in the DCEU. Now, there were plans with that Deathstroke origin movie, and then there was that Batman solo movie where Deathstroke was going to dismantle Bruce Wayne's life to the very core. It was going to be this crucible, basically cracking Ben Affleck's psychology as Batman and Bruce Wayne right down there. But again, doesn't really matter. Bring the actor over and I guess insert him into your own plans. So I would say that casting could still be on the table. Now, let's move on to some Antony Starr and Booster Gold related news here, because this is very interesting. So if you, long story short, with the recent Booster Gold news, production list, as I kind of went over earlier, initially put out that, oh, Booster Gold is going into production like June or July, out of nowhere, and that was debunked. So that's why we could safely say that the Titans thing, even before Gunn debunked it yesterday, was also not true. But there is Booster Gold information out there that I very much so do trust through some people that I know, that the casting choice of Booster Gold has been confirmed, being kept very under wraps. I don't know who it is. And for those of you who have seen that list of frontrunners for those who are contending for Booster Gold going around, these aren't the actors either. But what got me really excited about what I'm about to say is the way Antony Starr talked about his involvement in the DCU. It is very, very, very interesting. And comicbook.com did an interview here with Chase Crawford, who also plays the Deep, and of course Antony Starr, Homelander for The Boys Season 4, but they kind of squeezed in the whole DCU rumors here. And again, without playing the clip here, I'll read it out. It's very, very interesting. The body language, the way they laugh, the kind of way they kind of deflect a little bit. So when being asked about James Gunn and Antony Starr starting to follow each other on social media, and how there's now all of these rumors on you joining DC and playing Booster Gold. So my question is, I just want to know if you're even interested in playing a superhero who isn't addicted to breast milk. Oh yeah, good old Homelander there. And Antony Starr jokingly, and I would say like almost connivingly and coyingly, replies, no, me and James just play golf. And again, him and Chase Crawford both laugh here quite sneakily, and it's just interesting the way they do that. Kind of basically, if you look back on that moment, it was just kind of a deflection joke. Now, me and James Gunn just play golf. So he goes on to say, no, listen, I think he's amazing. So this is, in my opinion, just to interject again, kind of like his standardized deflective kind of PR response, even if there's more underneath the surface kind of thing. No, listen, I think he's amazing. I cannot wait to see what he does with the DC Universe. I think he's a phenomenal director, producer, talent. He just, he's one of the biggest brains in the industry. So I'm excited to see what he cooks up. So he literally doesn't even remotely kind of answer the question. He doesn't. He avoids it. That's the only way you can kind of take that. He avoids it. Why not straight up say, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to be in the DCU. Unless he's had conversations with James Gunn. And then initially, he kind of put that joke out there, being like, oh no, me and James just play golf. And then they both laugh in the way that they do. So I would take this as, I think Antony Starr is absolutely involved in the DCU, and he's had discussions with James Gunn. And he could only, as he would here, basically skirt around the topic and just praise James Gunn to kind of give a half answer in the way that you would as an actor when being asked about a project that you can't really talk about, if you know what I mean. So I would love him as Booster Gold, by the way. I do want to put that out there. I think it would be a cool change of a casting type for him. And I really do think he has the charm, and I can easily see him in the initial base structure, if you will, of the character of that of Booster Gold, who comes back to the present day to impress everyone with his powers, but really future technology, and then kind of goes on that real arc to be a hero. I think Antony Starr would actually nail that. But again, I've heard that it actually isn't Antony Starr, so I think other great fits for him is what a lot of fans are saying out there, and could even be a lot more in his wheelhouse, which isn't to say that he's going to be like Homelander in the DCU, but fans are suggesting that he could be one of the members of the Authority, such as Apollo or Midnighter. And I'm like, yes, anti-heroes, like a hard-ass member of a robust team, and if you know the Authority, you know exactly what I'm saying right now. Antony Starr playing a hero, but more of a member of a team that kind of do anything to get the job done type of thing, compared to that of like the morals of the Justice League, which actually kind of pits the Authority against Superman sometimes with the way they handle things. That fits so well. It's a different kind of role, but he's still like a bit rough on the edges. So yeah. Maybe he's not Booster Gold, but he could be Apollo or Midnighter. Let me know if you think he could play any other roles in the DCU. But I do think that his answer here and the way this is all kind of, flirting about the place behind the scenes with little rumors here and there, and now he's officially kind of addressed it, but specifically with that interesting answer, I think he will be in the DCU. It's just what role. And I do think that maybe the Authority, or one of the members of the Authority, could be hitting the nail on the head. So up next, with regards to Peacemaker and his future in the DCU, we have this kid ask John Cena at this event where he was able to ask a question kind of like on a panel, and he said, is Peacemaker going to show up in the future of the DCU kind of beyond just Peacemaker Season 2? And this is where you had John Cena reply, "Do you know who James Gunn is? Yeah, he's got this look when you make him mad, and it's actually indescribable. I don't want to see it ever again, so I'm just going to say no comment." So, I mean, it's kind of obvious that he's basically saying, nah, I can't talk about it, which means I'm going to be in the future of the DCU, even beyond Peacemaker Season 2. This isn't like crazy news. I'm sure if you asked any fan looking forward to what could be coming with the DCU, hey, do you think John Cena will have a future beyond Season 2 of Peacemaker? You would have probably answered, yeah, probably. So this is just more, I guess, affirmation of that. But let me know what else he could appear in. Maybe he could appear in Waller, since Waller is coming out after Peacemaker Season 2 now. So maybe he fits in somewhere there. And then as for DCU Batman, I just wanted to bring this up because, whenever stuff like this happens, people ask me my opinion on it. And it kind of opens the floor to you guys to talk about your casting choice for Batman in the DCU. But we have Glen Powell throw his hat in the ring to GQ magazine here saying, "I was always a Batman guy," Powell tells me later as we walked through a hall lined with Batmobiles. Powell has no interest in playing a superhero, but flirts with the idea of Bruce Wayne, who anyway is just a man. "I would have a wild take on Batman. It definitely would not be like a Matt Reeves tone. It'd probably be closer to Keaton." Oh, sick. He has found Keaton's Batmobile. See, this is the era. So, long story short, he was just kind of saying, hey, yeah, I would have a wild take on Batman if I would do it. It wouldn't be like Matt Reeves' Pattinson's tone of Batman, but hey, maybe more closer to what Tim Burton did with Keaton and stuff. But, this begs the question, do I see Glen Powell as Bruce Wayne in James Gunn's DC Universe? And I have to say, honestly, really honestly here, no. To me, this is just my opinion before anyone, because I do see some people really, gun hard for this, being like, wow, I actually really want him as DC Batman now. But to me, no, I don't get any Bruce Wayne energy there. I mean, I can kind of see it. It's kind of giving me flashbacks to how people actually saw Nicholas Hoult as Superman, and I could, in my head, be like, okay, I can imagine him as a version of that, but I feel like he has more Lex Luthor energy, right? And I would want David Corenswet out of those frontrunners to be Superman. Boom, that happened. Similar situation here. I don't see Glen Powell as kind of what I envision Bruce Wayne as in a DCU, but I can see how other people want that. But yeah, I don't. And DC Film News here over on Twitter kind of make a post after this saying Jake Gyllenhaal, Alan Ritchson, Winston Duke, Glen Powell have shown interest to play Batman. Who do you want to be the DCU's next Dark Knight? And let me know what you think of all of these fan castings out there. I mean, they're not even fan castings. They're people who have actually kind of given some comment on it. But Glen Powell, it's a no from me. I know people want him to be Booster Gold, but apparently it's not him. Booster Gold has been found, as I said, but it's not Glen Powell either. I still think that, some of the fan castings out there, namely being Brandon Sklenar, is way more the energy that I kind of view for Bruce Wayne. And I'm not just saying that because, everyone's hyping up Brandon Sklenar. It kind of does give me the energy of what Gunn has done with casting so far. So, for example, Superman in the front runners, like David Corenswet wasn't like a huge household name. He was in a couple of things, like namely Hollywood on Netflix, but, you know, Brandon Sklenar, he's been in things, but if there was a casting for Batman, who traditionally is usually a much bigger actor compared to who they hire for Superman, I do feel like if for once that they go for a more of a casting that isn't as big as previous Batman castings like Ben Affleck, Robert Pattinson, Christian Bale, etc., etc., Brandon Sklenar really does make me feel like if there was a Deadline article or a Hollywood Reporter article like that of what we saw for David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult and the several other frontrunners that were out there at the time, I can imagine for similar headlines for Batman where, you know, this would be a couple of years away probably, but it's like, the DCU is getting closer to finding its Batman. The frontrunners are la-di-da, da-da-da, Brandon Sklenar. That is the kind of energy or type of casting that he is that I can really imagine actually happening. Now, whether he will actually be in that front-running list, I don't know. Whether he will actually be Batman, who's to say, right? But I'm just saying I really wouldn't be surprised if it's like a casting pool of actors like that compared to someone like Glen Powell. However, again, you know, Batman has been a bigger star than that of Superman traditionally in the past, so maybe, you know, they could do a similar thing in the DCU if they can bag someone quite big. But I wouldn't be against at all casting an actor who is up and coming a lot more, who people may have seen, but they might have to look up to kind of remember, but they are still perfect for the role potentially. And, you know, it does seem that Brandon Sklenar is gaining a lot of momentum, kind of in the same vein as 3-4 years ago, David Corenswet was being asked about in interviews for other projects that he was doing. Hey, man, everyone's saying you're Superman. Would you love that role? And he was like, yeah, like, tell everyone to make it happen. Like, put it out there. And boom, he's Superman. So you get what I'm saying. But let me know what you think of Glen Powell or any other castings out there that you absolutely would love to see as the DCU's Bruce Wayne. But ladies and gentlemen, that is everything I'm going to talk about in today's news roundup video, so let me know your thoughts on all the stories that we discussed. If you've got to this point, hey, if you haven't clicked the like button, maybe now is the time you're going to do that, and maybe now is going to be the time that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future updates just like this. But I think I'm going to love you and leave you now. So again, appreciate you all. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see all of you DC family in the next video. Goodbye.